Hello everyone, my name is Andrew Bosher, and today I want to show you a technique for chaining vocoders for custom effects and anything you'd like in Reason. The track that you heard was something I just made for this tutorial real quick, but I want to show you the technique for making stacked vocoders to really get some thick, raw sounds, or whatever you like depending on how you utilize it. I will also be utilizing the vocoded drum loop technique that I've discussed earlier in a tutorial before this, so I definitely recommend you consulting that for any in-depth information about that technique. But let's get started. I do have a new project already created here, and I did just copy and paste the note over real quick and from the previous project. It's just a 8-bar sustained note. D sharp 2, nothing crazy. And in the rack I do have a combinator already created, so just right click and create a combinator. Now in the combinator we're going to create an instance of Thor, so right click in it and create a Thor. Click to show the programmer and right click. Reset the device or initialize patch depending on what version of Reason you're using. Now we're going to be using this Thor as the modulator for the first vocoder rather than the carrier. It's a lot of fun to make it the mold instead of the material. We used drum loops before, but we're going to use this first off. So, but again, there are no right or wrong answers when it comes to this application. So always experiment, always figure out what you want to do. We're going to keep the oscillator an analog oscillator, and I'm going to set it to a pulse wave here. Going to set the pulse width to about 56, and so that way it's not completely widened out. It's a little thin, but almost there. We're going to bypass the low pass filter. There's not going to be any filtering for this particular synth here, and we're going to set the decay and sustain all the way up so it doesn't lose any volume over time. So if we took a listen to what we have, it's a very standard pulse wave. Nothing too crazy going on there. But what we're going to do now is we're going to right click in the combinator. We're going to hold the shift key. We're going to create our first instance of the BV512 digital vocoder. Since we held shift, it will not be routed to anything automatically, so hit tab to flip the rack. And what we're going to do is the Thor by default routed itself to the combinator, so we had something here. But we're going to disconnect that. We're going to send the audio output of the Thor to the modulator input of the vocoder. We're then going to set the band mode to 8 bands, so it groups frequencies in a little more, less bands I should say, and gives you a little more raw sound. And what we're going to do is we're going to set the high frequency emphasis all the way to 127, so it really brightens up the sound as far as the first vocoder is concerned. Next we're going to right click into the combinator once again, and we're going to hold shift again, and we're going to create an instance of Maelstrom. This is going to be our carrier portion of the vocoder. Now again, these two instruments are arbitrary. You can use whatever you like. But for the sake of the tutorial and the sound that you heard before, we're going to set this to the pink noise oscillator here, an oscillator A. The carrier, when it is rich in harmonic frequencies and content, it will definitely make it a lot more noticeable as what the vocoder is actually doing. You can always use lower frequency instruments, but definitely just completely up to you. Now, we're going to set the motion, how fast or how slow this waveform is oscillating, to about -32, so it's a little slowed down. We're going to set the shift to about 30, and again, this just increases the formic characteristics of the sound itself, so it makes it brighter, but it doesn't increase the pitch per se, just the frequencies. We're going to set the index to about 30 as well, so it's a little farther up into the waveform of where it actually is when it gets triggered. And we're going to set the octave to 2. I'm not going to route it to any filters or anything. And just for a little added effect, we're going to go into Mod A, and we're going to modulate the index a little bit, maybe to 24. Nothing crazy. We're going to sync it up and set the rate to about 2/4. Keep it a sine wave, or use whatever you want. It's just more for just a effect than anything else. Now, so if we play it out, we won't hear anything because we haven't routed anything yet. So make sure to hit tab. Let's take the main output of the Maelstrom into the carrier input of the vocoder, and then route the output of the vocoder into the from devices here for now. So just we can have a listen to what we just made. So this is what we have. Nothing too crazy, just more of like a noise type thing going on there. But that's good. That's what we want. That's what we want to do to set that for the first vocoder. So we're going to go back into the combinator here, and we're going to right click, and we're going to hold shift once again, and then we're going to create a second vocoder here. And what we're going to do is we're going to take the vocoder's output that we just routed to the combinator, and we're actually going to route it back into the carrier's input of another vocoder here. I'm going to set the band mode to 4 band, so it's even more raw as far as the sound is concerned. And then we're going to set the shift to -50. That way it's a little less bright as far as the format characteristics of the vocoded sound here. And I'm going to leave the high frequency emphasis at 64. It can get really, really piercing if you start to turn this up. So just kind of leave it alone for this particular noise here. Next, I'm going to go back into the combinator, and I'm going to create a Dr. Octorex loop player. And I'm going to hold a hold shift key again, and just to make sure that there is nothing routed. I'm going to take the main output of the octo to the modulator input of the second vocoder here, and this is where we utilize the vocoded drum loops technique in the previous tutorial that I had here. So yeah, hit tab to flip the racket back again, and we're going to browse a loop here, and I'm going to use a house loop from the default pack of the factory sounds. So just Dr. Rex drum loops, house, Griffin World is what we used, what I used for the tutorial sound there. So as you can hear, there's a lot going on in it, so that's good because we want it to have activity as far as what we're doing with it. So we just need to make sure that we route the output of the vocoder, the second one, to the from devices to the combinator here. That way we can actually get a sound play out. So we have 2 vocoders stacked on top of each other, and one's being modulated by a drum loop and one other by a pulse wave. So make sure to copy the loop to track on the Dr. Octorex real quick, and make sure to unclick this box to deactivate the enable loop playback so it doesn't phase on itself. And that way we have the drum loop and we have the sustain note from both instruments from the combinator here. So let's take a listen. And as you can hear, it starts to create some really cool sounds, and you can do a lot with this. You can do anything with this, and it becomes a lot of fun. And of course, you can use any sort of oscillator for any carrier modulator. You can do whatever you like with this. So also, if you want a little more taste on it, a little more something something, you can always right click on the vocoder itself. And you don't even have to hold shift. You can just make an effect on it. So create a reverb on it, and it'll automatically route back up to, it'll go into the input of the reverb and back into the combinator. Just to give it a little something something. Just a Hall setting by default, not even messing with any diffusion or anything. So that is it. That is just a technique really to make some really cool vocoded custom effects. And so really hope that you learned something, or at least gave you some more ideas of how to do something. But that is it, and this is more of like a technique than it is like a sound or a patch, so I'm not going to save anything. Just make sure to follow the routing directions and consult the other tutorial. You'll be just fine. So that is it. Thank you so much for watching. I do have a new full-length album out, and it is RNG, Random Number Generator. So I had a lot of fun making that one. Definitely go check it out and see what it's about. I'll have links in the description. I'll have links in the video, and got more music on the way. So thank you everyone so much for tuning in. We're all students in this, and if you like the video, don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to like. Any comments, feedback, concerns, let me know. Show me what you did with the sound, and I'd love to hear what you guys make. But we're out of here for now. So thanks so much for watching.